Well, hello, St. Mary's friends. It's Wednesday, midweek, as we move along in these days. I want to begin by thanking those of you who sent in the photograph of the Divine Mercy image on the door of your home. We've got a goodly number, and thank you. And you could still do that. There are blessed images still in church. You can download from last Friday's newsletter, print it, put it up, take a photograph. The image on the door, you, your family in the image also, so thank you. And I think we'll publish them probably early next week when I'm sure we have the bulk of the photographs. Moving on, I want to tell you a story about a young woman named Jody Roberts. In 1985, she was 26 years old, newspaper reporter for the Tacoma, Washington, a News Tribune newspaper. One day she went missing. Nothing heard of her. 5 years later, she's found by police in Colorado. No identity papers, nothing. They gave her truth serum. Name didn't come forth from the truth serum. Eventually, they gave her the name Jane Doe. And so she just changed it to Jane D. And that's who she is in Alaska all these years later, with her husband and 4 children. It's quite a remarkable story. Never regained any memory at all. Though she was discovered, and her mother is now living with her up in Alaska, so that's good in some way. But never recovered a memory. Memory is a mysterious and wonderful power in human beings. That's who we are. I want to connect that with the Eucharist. When Jesus says, do this in memory of me, and when Jesus says, do in memory of me, it's a reality when he says that. And I know so many of you from emails, texts, conversations, miss receiving the Eucharist so much. It has that impact on you, and in some sense, that's a beautiful thing. It shows a depth of faith. And if you don't miss receiving the Eucharist, if you might say, I miss the activities in the parish, I miss the community, but I can't say that I notice much difference in my life not receiving the Eucharist, that's something to explore, to pray about, to reflect on. Why is that? In this newsletter, in the text, you'll see some quotes of the early church fathers on the Eucharist to maybe spur us along in prayer and reflection. Just lastly about this, because someday we will return. We will return to the church. We will be receiving the Eucharist together. And please God, we all have deepened that desire in our lives to receive this Eucharistic Lord. The 20th century Catholic novelist Flannery O'Connor, from down south, from Georgia. She was at a dinner party in New York City, socialites, hosted by the writer Mary McCarthy and her family. I believe this was in the 80s also. And she was kind of the token practicing Catholic. And she was this Southern, unsophisticated, in their eyes, woman. And Mary McCarthy, who was a lapsed Catholic, said that she thought the Eucharist was quite a nice symbol. And in one of her letters, Flannery O'Connor details this and says this. She said, I then said in a very shaky voice, well, if it's a symbol, to hell with it. That was all the defense I was capable of. But I realize now that this, all I will ever be able to say about it, except that it is the center of existence for me. All the rest of life is expendable. It's a powerful testimony by her as to what the Eucharist meant to her. Even though maybe those socialites didn't get it, she got it. And we must get it also in our lives. So I encourage you, the spiritual communions, the prayer and reflection, placing yourself spiritually before the tabernacle of the Lord, so that when we return, your Eucharistic faith and devotion will certainly be powerful. Praise be Jesus Christ, now and forever. Amen.